Appreciate you guys all being on here live. So talking about the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, looking at how you can schedule your life in order to be more productive. One of the biggest ways to do that is prepping your mornings the right way. So Scott's saying in the comments, he's read the Miracle Morning Not for Entrepreneurs. It's real similar. If you've read the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, it's great. Take a look at something else. With that said, I know there's a lot there, or really you can take savers. It talks about setting aside an hour to do it. You can set aside 7 minutes, right? 1 minute for each of those things. Something is better than nothing. But what I want to give you guys is some ideas, some ways that I look at every time I look at my daily tasks, I look at my goals. I want to make sure that something falls underneath a handful of categories, right? Now, there's a difference between our overall tasks and goals. And I've talked about this before, but our goals are the things that drive us. Our goals are the things that help us get up and get moving and get through the day, deal with the frustrations, deal with the ups and downs and the things that are always going to happen. And the moment that you guys said yes to this, how many of you guys started to feel a little overwhelmed or frustration, or life just started to stack up, or there was more issues at work, or there's more issues with family, or you just recognized there was, or sometimes those issues popped up and in part it was you started looking for the issues so it would give you an excuse to not have to deal with something new, right? And in reality, that's probably what happened with more of you than you'd care to admit. And you're looking for the little obstacles going through the videos. There's this frustration or that, and man, I want my excuses because that gives me my out, right? Well, daily as you're going through things, the goals is what gets you through that. The tasks are the BS that we have to deal with every day, whether we want to or not. And sometimes people confuse the tasks with the goals. And so they go after these tasks, and occasionally you don't always finish all of your tasks, and you think that they're goals. And so when you go to create goals for your business, you go, well, I haven't done them. I'm not good at accomplishing my goals. And so you're unwilling to create your goals. But there is a difference. And it's not just semantics, ladies and gentlemen, right? Making sure that my laundry is done every single day isn't a goal. I can't equate that with a goal to travel to Italy later this year. But if we do in our mind, our subconscious picks that up. So you need to kind of understand the difference. Now, what I'm going to do is share with you just a couple of real basic things that I do. Anytime I look at a goal, I separate it into a couple of categories, right? And then tasks, I try and do the same thing. I separate it into my categories. Part of this helps me understand the relative weight of what I'm doing. It helps me identify what's going on there, the importance, the amount of time I'm going to spend, either the amount of time and focus I'm going to spend mentally or not, right? If it's a task that I just didn't finish at the end of the day, instead of getting myself frustrated and getting down and laying in bed going, man, I wish I had accomplished X, Y, Z, I move on. Because in the grand scheme of things, it's something I can handle first thing in the morning if I just deal with it. But I separate things into this. So this is how I do it. I've found it to be helpful for me. I've shared it with others. Some have found it to be helpful. What I recommend is looking at it and making the modifications that will allow you to apply it to your life. Okay, everybody clear there? All right, before I jump into that, I saw this cool article I wanted to share with you guys. I talk a lot about reading. We talk about how our brains work. There's an article on Inc.com. This is how reading rewires your brain.
Finally.
Hold on. Okay. This is how reading rewires your brain according to neuroscience. Okay, so it's not just the short term, but long term. There are changes that happen to your brain when you read. I just read it this morning. I thought it was fantastic based off all the stuff we always talk about. So Inc.com, I'll drop the link in there for you guys.
Hey, Andrew, can I share another book that talks about just being able to learn, whether it's reading, being consistent in your daily routines, but it's Limitless. That is a really, really good book.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that
Jim Quick, isn't it?
Jim Quick?
Yes.
Good
Yes.
book.
I mean, he talks about how you can increase your reading speed. He
Your
just
memory. Yeah, he's a cool guy. And it's great because he's, his name is Jim Quick and he didn't even plan it that way. He's all about reading fast and his name's Jim Quick. All right. So thank you. Yes, awesome guy and fun to follow on social media too. Always great and insightful posts he's got. So a couple of real simple things, guys. So how to focus your goals, plan your days. These are some things that I follow. Every time I sit down, I look at it. These are things that I try and do. So each morning I hit
Excuse
these
me,
things.
Andrew, before you go
Yes,
any further, what was the name? I didn't write down the full title. I'm trying to write down the title of what you just had up.
The article, I just
Yeah.
put the link into the chat so you guys can click on it.
Oh, okay.
And
Thank you.
I'll get you the article again in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
So what I do with these guys, these are categories. Every single day I wake up, I do something in these categories. And then when I have my goals or my tasks, I look at where it is to make sure that I try and keep my life as balanced as possible. Balance as human beings can be rough when you're juggling multiple businesses, jobs, families, health, everything else. It can be a struggle. So first thing that I do is I look at spirit. Okay. Real simple, straightforward. I look at my spiritual health. Now, guys, this is whether you are religious, you are atheist, whatever, you have within you something greater, right? The composition of everything that you are, there is something greater in the universe than you. Hopefully you believe that on some level. If you don't, that's okay. I'm not here to bash that, but spirituality is something that's important to me, whatever religion you're in. Balance yourself out, find some way to be in tune with that. So one thing that I do daily to help me spiritually, okay, along with reading scripture can be one of those things. Meditation can be one of those things. I journal. It's a way to allow my thoughts, my emotions, everything else to kind of go out like that. Okay. So for me, journaling and that process, because it includes some other things. So that process for me, I include with the spiritual side. So it could be meditation, it could be journaling, it could be prayer, but something to help give your spirit a foundation. Okay. If you've got a question, because a couple of people are kind of raising their hands, drop it into the chat for me. It'll be easier to get at that point. Next thing I look at, every single morning, I do something for my mind. My lifestyle is no longer with work. Sorry. With work, my lifestyle is no longer as physically demanding. It's all about my brain. So it's not just preparing things like this. I need to make sure that my mind stays active. I need to make sure that it stays elastic, that things are changing consistently, that I'm always learning, right? There is Alzheimer's within my family. There are issues with memory on a couple of different levels on both sides. I need to do everything I can to keep my mind active, and it helps me see the creative side of business, of growth, and everything else. Yep, the neuroplasticity, absolutely. So for me, my mind, it's reading or trainings that I've got available, right? Not just reading fantasy books, because you guys know I do. I read fiction, but reading every day. There's something going on with reading every day, right? That's part of and that goes to what, the article I was just showing you from Inc. This is how reading rewires your brain, right? So one thing I do every day, I read books. Now, figure out some kind of training. Next, body. Every morning I do something to exercise my physical well-being, right? Now, I try and go to the gym multiple times during the week as well. For me, that's separate than what I do each morning to kickstart my physical self. When your body is awake, you function better. And I don't just mean what David had said earlier, I think it was David, about caffeine. I don't mean just that. I mean, exercise works better to increase your capability to have cognitive function in your brain than simply adding caffeine to your intake. Exercise. So every morning before I do anything, as I'm listening to affirmations, so this is how I do it. I'm stretching. I've got some really light weights that I've got on the floor behind me. Every morning I've got them up. I'm doing a handful of exercises, even for just a few minutes. That gets blood pumping throughout my whole body. And those days that I do that, I try and do it every day. But there's absolutely a difference in what happens with my days when I do and when I don't do that. So every morning I try and do something simple. Okay. Next is heart. Now, every day I do something to express love to someone that I care about, because we don't do that enough. And I don't just mean a simple I love you. how many of you guys have read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? A lot of you guys have, right? Hopefully. Yes, no?
Yep.
Okay, good. A lot of you guys have. That's great. All of you men should read it. Maybe read it again. I haven't read it in 15 years, but so one of the things about me, my love language is service, right? Like that's part of, it's part of the reason I cook, or I'll clean, or I'll do this, like that's part of the way I express that I love my fiance, my family, or others. So I'm always going to do that. That's something that always happens. So I don't even need to think about that because that happens. So what I try and do is something daily. Try and do it in the morning, where it's a text, a phone call, a voice message. It's a handwritten note. I'll mail handwritten notes occasionally. I try and do something to help express love. Okay. Find out what your love language is. How many of you guys kind of have an idea? So Aga's saying the Chapman's 5 love languages. Does anyone know what the 5 are? Because I don't know them off the top of my head. Right? There's touch. There's Trita. Do you know them? Or are we just
I
shaking?
know there's words of affirmations, one of them.
Words of affirmations. Who else has got them? So service,
Acts of service is another.
touch, service, gifts, acts of service. Okay.
Time,
Anything
quality
else?
time.
Gifts, quality, and
Yeah.
time. Okay.
Time.
So here's the challenge for you guys with this. Think about what your love language is. So we just had acts of service, physical touch, gifts, quality time, right? So
Be
essentially,
present.
what's that? Be
One of
present.
them is be present. Let's say if you're sitting with your spouse or your partner, should be sitting kind of like paying attention what they're talking, what you're saying, not watching TV and talking same time. Doesn't do so.
Yeah. So actual quality time. So I want you guys to think about your love language, because hopefully, so that maybe a double challenge for some of you. I want you to think about your love language, and maybe just look up, after we're done, look up love languages. I want you to figure out which one is yours. Do more of that first.
The 5 is affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch.
There you go. Thank you, Gene. Appreciate that. So look at those, figure out which one is yours, do more of that, and express that as well. Hey, I studied love languages. Guys, this will go over great for you, I promise. If you go to your significant other, and women too, say, hey, so part of my personal development, I went and I looked at love languages. And I know we may have talked about this before, but I realized mine is this. And I think yours is that. Is that fair to say? Is that correct? Well, yeah. Well, I'd like to just point out, like, when I do XYZ, that's my way of showing that I love you, right? My fiance knows one way that I should, so she takes advantage of it. She knows that me cooking is one way I show her I love her. So she asked for that. We're sitting down at night. She knows me rubbing her feet. It's an act of service for me. And I love that because it's kind of that little bit of physical touch plus the act of service. So she enjoys it, right? Point is have that conversation and share that. Do a little more of the one that you love, of the thing that you love, but challenge yourself to do some of the other things as well. Does that make sense for everybody? Do something from the other love languages as well. Okay. Spend some time doing that. So that's one of the things I try to do every single day, because it forces you to grow in a way that isn't comfortable. That's part of this, guys. All of this. Do something that makes you grow. The next is effort. Every single day, I put something into getting shit done. Execute on something. Get to work. And it's not just learning. See, a lot of us get caught up in I'm learning how to do this, I'm learning how to do that. Don't just learn. And this isn't about perfection. Is Michelle King, is she on? And I'm just bringing this up because she said it last week. And so in a positive way. So one of the, Michelle's one of our members last week. She was talking about how she's taken forever to do one of her first posts. And our thing was just put it out there. Just do something. Just get your posts up. Just get it going, right? So there was an activity done by an art teacher, right? And this is a story, and I'd have to find the exact thing. But so the art teacher separated her class into 2 groups. And the one group was given a challenge that over the course of 30 days, they were going to create a pot. They were doing sculpture, a pot, something. They were doing it every single day. Every single day they had to do it. It was all about quantity, right? And the second group, it was all about quality. They just needed to do one, and they wanted to make it as perfect as possible, right? So you have group one and group two. Group one is just, it's all about quantity. Group two is all about quality, right? On average, which group would you say had the higher quality items being produced?
Group
Quantity
one.
one.
Group one. Absolutely. Why?
Because they had more things within their group, and you can pull out the things that were quality.
Yeah, well, towards the end, it was, yeah, they were doing it. They were practicing it. They were getting it done over and over and over. So by the end, it was just an overall higher quality item because they learned how to do it. Whereas the other group got so involved with trying to make the one perfect, they didn't get the practice in. They didn't do it enough. Their brain didn't learn how to do it. And then they overwhelmed themselves with thinking too much about it. We do that, guys. Stop it. Stop doing that to yourselves. Just do work. Just get it done. Just check complete, get something out there. And more and more that you do, the better it will become. Everything in life. Quit waiting for perfection. Just do something. So that effort, every single day I try and do something. And I push myself. I don't do it every day. I like to say I do every single day. I try and do something uncomfortable as often as possible. Something that just sucks, whether it's something with exercise or it's reading something I'm not really looking forward to, or it's trying to learn some new skill, or it's practicing this. I try and put myself in those situations. I've talked about it before. My oldest son's on the autistic spectrum. One of the biggest things that we had to do with him was ABA therapy. It's applied behavioral analysis therapy. The whole point of therapy like that is putting people into situations that they're not comfortable in and helping them deal with it and learn how to deal with it so they can react on a normal, right, societal norm level. How often do we avoid the uncomfortable actions that we have to deal with during the day? Think about it. How often do we do that? Spend some time being uncomfortable. And I promise you will improve. Put effort into things that need to get done and just get them done. Put your heart, your mind, your body, and your soul into something each and every day, and you'll be surprised at what can come of your life and your business. So every day I sit down and I've got my list, right? I've got my list of spirit, mind, body, soul, effort, heart. I've got that there. And every day I sit and I look and I go, have I done something on my list? Am I pushing towards my big goals, and how do they fit on that list? Am I doing what I can to balance myself out as much as possible? And where am I avoiding the difficult tasks? Guys, if you want to do the savers from Miracle Morning, do the savers. If you want to apply something like this, apply something like this. If you want to create your own list, then do it. If you need to be 3 instead of 5 or 6, that's fine. Just each and every day work on you. Each and every day become better. Each and every day find a way to rise up, rise from the ashes, and fly like the phoenixes that you are. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you being on each and every day. Thank you so much. And on that note,